Yo, what's good? It's IfFound, and today we've got the Ableton Rack and Serum preset pack for July. So real quick, just to jump right into it, we've got just a loop here, no effects, playing as is. The first rack in the Ableton Rack pack is the shifter, and I use this a lot for build-ups. So it's got 3 different shift modes. We're using frequency, ring, and pitch shifters, and you can choose between those shift modes with the shift knob or with the type knob. The shift knob actually just pushes it up, and then the dry wet just tells you literally how dry wet it is. So as you can see, we'll start all the way down. We have the frequency shifter selected. We'll turn the dry wet all the way up. So just kind of a nice little, it's a good build effect. What's cool with the dry wet is you put it like around here. So you kind of get this subtle riser effect built into it. And what's nice is it's all in one channel. So it's just nice and compact, creates a cool little riser effect. To further do that, we've got a different type of shift effect as well. We've got ring shift and dry wet. Put it kind of like around here. So you can hear it's a slightly different tone or effect on the shifting. Still creates a bit of that riser effect, but it has a bit of the actual intermodulation and everything that you get from ring shifting as well. So kind of a cool, more textural effect that you get here. And then we have the classic pitch shift effect. So this is just going to pitch it up. So there you go. So moving on to the next one, this one's going to take a little bit more explaining. This is the Delta effects. This one's kind of weird. So it's split into 3 different sections. We've got our mod, delta, and through. Essentially what's happening is we're creating a phase shift in the mod section on the main signal that you're hearing. So this, we create a phase shift, which we can do with an EQ, you can do with a filter, phasers, flangers, anything that's going to induce a phase shift on the signal, we'll put in this section. And normally I like to run with an EQ, which is like a notch curve or like a notch filter or something like that. Delta, this is where you're going to spend most of your time, is where you put all the effects. Now essentially what it's doing is it's affecting the phase shifted signal that happens because of this phase shift that we induce. And there's actually a little bit of, I've written some info here in the info view, so if you put in like shift question mark, you can hide and unhide that. But in the mod section, which tells you a little bit here, so add effects in this chain that induce phase shift, so such as like an EQ, I already have that started out for you. Delta, here you can add any effects you want, so it can be a reverb, it can be delay, and this is where you get more creative with it. You can just kind of play around with that section. And what I mean by that is all of these in here is where you're going to add your effects. But I'm going to show you how this works as well in practice. And then through, you don't want to touch anything in here, just leave that alone. Just to kind of show you a couple of examples of this effect, we'll start out. So on the dry snapshot, completely dry, no change. Reverb, phaser, flanger, just grain delay, and then just kind of a general chaos. So you can get a lot of more interesting stereo imaging stuff that happens with this particular effect rack. But again, like I said, you can throw anything in here. So I could do, say an echo if I want. I could do a saturator. And we could go color up here. But you can hear how it really has this nice, like, it basically takes all the effects and pushes them out to the side. So it creates this very nice stereo with that it's a little bit more of an interesting effect profile or like sound profile to what you would normally do for your effects. So it's a fun experimental rack. You're gonna play mostly in this area here in the Delta, but you can also change the tone. This is where it gets a little more interesting as well, is you can change the tone of the effects that are being processed. So I think you can start to get an idea of like what you could do here. But essentially you're imparting the tonality that's happening here onto the Delta effects, and then it's combining with the original signal. So it's pretty cool stuff. So this rack, it might not be available for everyone, but essentially you need a couple of things to run this rack. So I try to keep everything Ableton stock, or at least Serum, since that's what most people have. But in this one, you do need a couple of third-party plugins. Namely, you need the Korg M1. We're using 2 instances of that, and then just a Nexus. And this is, I believe, a bass preset in Nexus. Yeah, it's one of the bass ones, so it's one of the extension packs, but it comes with Nexus. And so altogether, you get something that sounds like this. And when the rack loads, it'll look kind of like this. But what's nice is just to run through some of these presets here. So this is my like go-to for a lot of my piano sounds for the Found stuff. It's just a good stack of cool piano sounds. It's a little more digital EDM sounding, but a couple different tonalities here you can do. This is a little bit more natural sounding. Still pretty heavily compressed, but yeah. And then you got a couple controls here as well if you don't want to go through the presets, but also nice little filter. So that's that piano sound. Again, you're gonna need Nexus and Korg M1 to run it. And then we have our next one, which is just a basic sustain, FM sustain. Got 2 different macros here. We've got pitch. Kind of get the tonality right, and then I'm gonna push the FM a little bit harder. This is nice on lower octaves. So pretty simple patch processing here. I'll let you play around with that more. And then we have our last preset here, which is it's kind of an interesting, it's like flangery, phasey type pluck, kind of like a wow filter almost. Very basic. There's not a lot of macros here, but it's just a cool tone with some interesting processing, but it's all in the box, which is nice. You can load it up and it sounds just like that. So that's it for this month's Ableton Rack and Serum preset pack. If you guys have any questions, let me know, or if anything isn't working as expected, let me know and I'll fix it. Thanks again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.